It's either her pace or the spacing. Additionally, the numbers are honest. When the offense is launched, the ball travels more quickly through Clark. The group shoots more accurately. Changeover. Points increase. Everybody makes contact with the ball. More. However, that only functions when the co-workers want it to succeed. When they cease playing, have faith in the system. Play basketball and other side games. For her part, Clark continues to make an effort. During breaks, she converses with teammates. Screams are called out by her. She rejoices. Their buckets made more noise than hers did. She's allowing them every opportunity to participate in this voyage, but she will not beg. And following her subtly savage comments, it's evident that she's also finished allowing outside noise to divert her attention from the mission, because this is the genuine plot twist. The entire Mitchell, the family saga might have been beneficial. Clark. It provided her with an excuse to refocus, to solidify, to give up attempting to please everyone and begin taking the lead with conviction. Don't shrink any further to fit in. Don't wait any longer. No more acting like you're not, as if she were a newbie. She isn't. She is a franchise. She is a remedy for the turmoil of the fever. If the group permits her, she will guide them to the postseason. She will abandon them if they don't, both in the league and on the court. Story. It's not ego either. That's actuality. Since Clark isn't merely one of the top athletes on her squad, she's already among the most significant league participants. She shifts measurements. She changes the subject. Additionally, as this episode demonstrates that she is fully aware of how to handle conflict without becoming absorbed it. And this is where it truly begins to hurt for the ones keeping the past in mind, and for people in A, who in the locker room still has faith in this team, can operate without making a complete commitment to its prospects. Caitlin Clark's lack of not simply a rookie sensation anymore. She is a stormfront sweeping across all WNBA leagues. She enters the arena, interfering with the game, strategies, altering stories, and whether they agree or not, imposing evolution. The Indiana Fever have the option of embrace that storm or let it to consume you. However, at the moment, the energy surrounding it feels like resistance to this team, opposition to change, opposition to control of seeding, opposition to the reality that someone who is 22 years old is outworking, outthinking, and outproducing players who have years of experience in the league. And Kelsey Mitchell and other veterans may, without explicitly stating it, the body language, the chemistry of the on-court, or you can see that its absence speaks a lot in the lack of spacing, the missed passes, the times when Clark is requesting the ball at the key's top, and they all act as though they don't see her. And don't assume that fans are unaware. Social. The media is brutal. Each freeze frame, each Clark is completely exposed while a teammate makes a disputed fadeaway clip, analyzed as if it were a JFK plot. And that pressure is rapidly increasing. Admirers are beginning to challenge the status quo. The locker room is being called out to drama, the election of ego-driven shots, the unwillingness to adapt. They're not only no longer supporting Caitlin, they're supporting her as if she were the only sensible voice in a static-filled room. Stats and scoring are no longer important. Titles. It involves vigor, leadership. Caitlin Clark is providing the vision. All three. Moreover, she is doing it under unfeasible conditions. Let's discuss pressure, the type that breaks the majority of novices. Clark didn't simply enter this league with enthusiasm. She arrived expecting something national, corporate, cultural, and others. She was anticipated to promptly save a team, improve the league, and motivate the following generation, and manage to, when negotiating the narratives of the media, subtle racism, jealousy in the locker room, and the type of examination often reserved for pop stars and politicians. However, she attends practice and game after game. Following practice, interviews after a game, youth clinics, charity events, you name it. She's there grinning and concentrated. The model pro, unfazed. Despite the fact that she is working and grinding while the cameras are off. On her game, watching movies, and attempting to cultivate connections, attempting to establish an element within a group that feels more similar to a botched chemistry experiment rather than a working unit. However, there's one player can only carry that for so long. Burden before it causes her to break or she succeeds. That all-star. The breakthrough was the weekend interview. Clark was placing her flag there. She basically declared, "I've finished explaining. I've had enough of tiptoeing around brittle egos. I've finished taking in the responsibility for circumstances beyond my control." She exposed media fabrications without mentioning names. She disregarded online feuds with a one-liner and a shrug. She admitted the mayhem without contributing to it. Leadership is that. Maturity is that. And that is precisely what the Fever require, isn't it? Right now. Since the reality is that this group need more than just a new system, it requires a new persona. It is currently torn between two periods of time. On one side, you have the athletes and veterans who spend their professional lives in a more conventional WNBA environment where positions are inflexible, the hierarchy is revered, and change happens gradually. Conversely, Clark is one of the players from the time of Steph Curry, free and without a position, flowing, spontaneous, and designed for two dribbles and transition threes, drives, rather than sluggish and deliberate post-ups, half-court sets. These fashions don't only clash, they balance each other out. And on the court, that is what you are witnessing. A group attempting to play two games simultaneously. Half of the players on the roster wish to slow down, separate, and grind out your belongings. The other half wants to kick out, run, and space out. And go. It's whiplash in basketball. No. One is aware of their identity. Additionally, when you are unsure of your collective identity, you lose. Clark is attempting to play in the meantime, like a Ferrari in a crowded parking lot. Tractors. Each time she accelerates, dirt is thrown into the engine by someone. But she doesn't give up. She restarts. She adjusts. Even more astonishingly, she tries to make it work, taking the lead in team and aid, and still locating magical moments in spite of the structural disorder all around her. That's what makes her distinct. That's what makes her hazardous. She has more than just talent. She is a strategic person. She has a long-term perspective. And if that doesn't help the Fever program shortly, they will lose more than just games. They will lose her due to the fact that nobody wishes to utter aloud. Caitlin Clark is not permanently confined to Indiana. She's choices. She has power. She possesses the whole league. Furthermore, let's face it, half. You anticipated this. As soon as the relatives of one of your more seasoned comrades begins disparaging you on the internet, subtweeting, sarcastic remarks, even on Facebook, there's a limit to how long you can rant. Your tongue. Caitlin bit it for some time. However, this week she bit back. Additionally, what began as a smoldering tension in the locker room has officially erupted into an intensely personal and professional conflict inside the Indiana Fever. And it's overflowing into the public like a fire hydrant that has burst on a sweltering warm day. Let's go back in time. If you want to hear the true tale, and subscribe to avoid the filtered version. And if you want to stay for the upcoming meltdown, you had better sign up. The drama really started with the notorious explosion during halftime. You do not forget it. The moment went viral. Camera during an Atlanta game. Dream in which Clark, clearly irritated, shouted to her teammates, pointing in. Disbelief as an additional asset. Concluded with her exposed on the perimeter disregarded. Clark didn't. Additionally, don't sugarcoat things in the locker room. Based on several sources from that game, she called out teammates explicitly, especially the veterans, for freezing. She was fired for failing to run the plays appropriately, as well as for treating her as a issue instead of the fix. Coach Stephanie White attempted to intervene to soothe the situation, but it was too late. The air was already poisoned. Early the following day, Kelsey Mitchell's sister, who removed the post later, but not before saving screenshots, and published a scathing text that said something along the lines of, "Just since you were drafted first does not imply team leadership. Show respect. People who have been working hard here for years. You guys pretend that she created basketball." The game was lighted by that post. The comments came flooding in. Supporters choose sides. Mitchell's family went all out. And, well, Clark, she said, for a few days. Nothing. In any case, nothing formal. However, during the media circuit for the WNBA All-Star, at last, Clark opened the door. Furthermore, what came through wasn't merely a retort. It was a cold-blooded, premeditated reality, delivered with a microphone and a smile in hand. Questioned whether the drama with her teammates, particularly the Mitchell, she was being impacted by her family's online shenanigans. Attitude. After pausing, Clark said, "Gem. Social media doesn't really concern me. Media. Actually, I'm too busy playing basketball." Boom. If you pay close attention, that one nearly sounds like it's echoing to the locker room with the fever, since Clark didn't mention names. She was not raised by her voice. She didn't have to. That remark accomplished exactly what it was intended to. Remind all those who are truly putting, who is sketching the 30 defenders in the work, selling out, feet from a basket, who is destroying the viewership in arenas. Each time she gets dressed, it's Caitlin Clark, her. Additionally, if certain veterans and their families are incapable of managing, that's the issue with them. What constitutes this drama isn't what makes it so crazy. Even originating from rival teams, it's inside. That is the reason it feels so corrosive. In actuality, Kelsey Mitchell is an accomplished WNBA player. Score. In terms of points, she has led the Fever for many years and is among the few streaks of brightness in an otherwise drab history of the franchise. Here's the difficult part, though. Truth that nobody wants in that locker room to speak aloud. She is not on this team. No longer. Now it's Clark's. For a period, she didn't request that position. It included the anticipated draft selection, and with everyone on the planet observing her every action, she didn't insist on the spotlight. It was already anticipating her before to her appearance on the court, whether her teammates approve of it or not. No, she is the driving force behind this franchise. Not everyone has the same issue, ready to join the team. As some of the veterans continue to believe they are the leaders, Clark must wait for her turn, something she hasn't yet merited. However, the kicker is here. They're losing. Nothing is being built by them. Additionally, to be fair, they weren't precisely. Before Clark came, the lead was being torn apart either. Thus, when Mitchell's relatives arrive, out swinging, accusing Clark of being conceited or they're not entitled to Hollywood, merely letting off steam, they're airing the actual rift inside this group. I'm jealous. I was envious that Clark entered and immediately became the franchise's spokesperson. Feeling jealous that she receives the fans' endorsements, the ESPN portions, my love. Envious of her. Jerseys are all over the place when there's gather dust at the team's rear. purchase. Additionally, rather of ascending to the occasion, rather than viewing Clark's arrival as an opportunity to advance in level, and some of them are acting when they ultimately compete, as though it were a danger. However, this is what distinguishes Clark. She is capable of answer without making a big deal out of it. Locker room. That comment from All-Star wasn't merely a retort. It was a show of leadership. She didn't pull Mitchell along. She did not give a name, drop anyone. She made and maintained her argument. Elegant, and let her performance speak for itself. Speaking. And it does talk. Clark is averaging high assists for the club and second in the scoring process. Though seldom receiving the ball some quarters, her vision on the court is unrivaled. In support of her, but still getting better than what detractors say. Anticipated. She's surpassing everyone in work, searching for stray balls, taking difficult screens, attempting to improve her team. However, it's challenging to improve the group when you have the silent support of half the room to not succeed. And that's the true sorrow of everything. The Indiana Fever might be fantastic. There is talent. There is a blueprint. However, the culture, it's broken at the moment. You possess a rookie of the generation surrounded by veterans unable to determine if they wish to dull her light or assist her in shining. Just enough to make you feel important once more. And Stephanie White, the coach, is trapped in the center, attempting to act as a peacekeeper, attempting to respect the veterans while not alienating her celebrity. However, this is the great teams choose a course of action. You cannot continue to walk a tightrope between two identities, two styles, two schedules. This team is either constructed about Clark's vision, her pace, and her